Everybody, this is the first Film Colossus kind of news roundup, so forgive me if it's a little tricky on the first go. We'll get it smoothed out over time. So starting off, just getting into the news that's kind of big on February 21st, 2018. The Duplass brothers have landed 4 films on Netflix, which I know that's probably exciting for some people. I'm not necessarily a Duplass brothers kind of guy, though I did like them in the mini project. But, there's been a lot of talk recently about the slate of Netflix movies falling. Not the slate of them, but the total number of movies on Netflix really falling. And it seems like a lot of the high-quality movies have been replaced with a lot of B and C level movies. So there's been a lot of criticism of Netflix with having a dwindling film library, but it is fascinating to watch as they transition from really benefiting from TV and original TV productions to now getting into more and more original film productions. So what they could have on there in the next few years is going to be pretty fascinating, especially with all the niche audiences that they're building. Okay, so interesting. Not groundbreaking for me, but interesting. Reviews for Annihilation came out, and this is the next movie by Alex Garland, who did Ex Machina. Some people have been really excited by the trailers, especially with this being a high-concept sci-fi film that's a bit more original, rather than just being a sequel to something else or another popular franchise. Based on a book series, but lesser known. So reviews were pretty good. Rotten Tomatoes, 88%, Metacritic, 86%. I'm excited to see it, though the trailers didn't leave me all that blown away, but I love sci-fi, so this will be hopefully a good one. I wasn't as in love with Ex Machina as other people were. I know there's some people that really thought it was the best movie of the year. I just wish it had 20 more minutes, or even like 10 more minutes at the end. That would have been the point where the movie got way more interesting to me. That next level of, with all of that happening, now what? That now what is what I wanted to see. So with Annihilation, I'm glad reviews are good. There was a lot of fear that the movie might flop, might be Ghost in the Shell level of just, this is what they did. So, there's an interesting article that Paul Thomas Anderson is working on a family-friendly script with his 8-year-old daughter, which, on the one hand, I like the darker films that Paul Thomas Anderson puts out. So part of me is like, just get back to making the things I want. But on the other hand, I'm down to see what he comes up with. This is a unique idea. It's something that I'm actually surprised that other filmmakers don't do, as more of a kind of gimmick isn't right, but just, they reach a point where they have more creative freedom. And, this is an interesting task to have. So we'll follow that. I'm smiling pretty big here. So Paramount dropped Transformers 6 from its slate. And I'm a big Transformers fan, but not the Michael Bay movies. Those movies can suck my dick. But I love the 1986 Transformers movie, and I'm just waiting for the day that we get a live-action Transformers that's anywhere close to as good as that 1986 movie. It hasn't happened yet. Maybe it'll happen one day. It definitely wouldn't under Michael Bay's watch. So the fact that we're finally dropping that series and giving some space to hopefully have a reboot and hopefully have some good people come in and make something that's quality, please, for the love of God, please allow that to happen. Though there's still the Bumblebee movie. That's the thing that's happening. We'll see how that goes. There was an article in USA Today by Brian Truitt, who wrote Why Smart Sci-Fi Struggles to Find Its Audience in a Star Wars World. And there were people on Reddit that were talking that had some issues with some of the details that were being described. Like it uses life as an example of smart sci-fi that didn't do well. The Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds movie, it only grossed $30 million, which when you have Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds, you would hope for more than that. And pointing out that even Alien Covenant only managed 74.3 million, that Arrival barely broke 100 million despite how acclaimed it was, that it doesn't seem that these either big budget sci-fi movies that aren't made for entertainment value but are made more in the art realm or art house style aren't doing as well. Which, you know, might be as basic as art house movies never really do as well as movies that are like Star Wars or Harry Potter or the Marvel cinema. Like, it's not like Unbreakable did as well in the box office as X-Men, right? But the thing that stood out to me that I thought was maybe worth talking about, or at least bringing up, is the fact that we have seen a renaissance in art house horror, right? It's more the psychological horror, the Babadooks of the world, the witches of the world, that are grossing surprisingly well. Not great, mind you. They're not doing Star Wars money, but they're doing pretty good returns. Blumhouse, for example, has been making a killing off of smart horror. Same with A24. They're seeing some benefits there. So why hasn't that necessarily translated to sci-fi? Especially when sci-fi, it seems like Westworld, some shows on Netflix it's doing well enough in the TV format and doing well enough in the blockbuster format of The Martian or Gravity that you have to wonder why more of the art-angled or art-inspired versions of sci-fi aren't doing as well as some of the horror films, though it doesn't seem horror is doing as well in TV, right? You don't have a Westworld in the horror realm. So that's an interesting dynamic that I don't necessarily have an answer for, but I'm curious in following and thinking about more as we kind of see this trend and how it develops and what emerges. They announced Jurassic World 3, so that's a thing that's going to be happening. I can't tell if this is going to go the Transformers franchise route, where just every movie you're like, I'm going to see it hoping that it's good, and it never leaves me thoroughly satisfied. Or if they're actually going to find their footing and start getting into a rhythm. Fingers crossed that it's rhythm, because we don't have enough dinosaur movies. So if Jurassic World goes away, I'd be sad. Andy Serkis is making a Mowgli movie that's his interpretation of the Jungle Book. And it got a PG-13 rating rather than an R rating. But it does have intense sequences of violence, including bloody images and thematic elements that revolve around violence. I love Andy Serkis. I think his work in the motion caption world as Gollum and King Kong and Caesar in the Planet of the Apes movies is insane. I think he should have been nominated for an Oscar. I loved him in Black Panther. So him directing Mowgli, I'm in. I want to support Andy Serkis. And then Honest Trailers came out with one for Justice League. And pretty good. It captured a lot of the issues, as Honest Trailer does with Justice League. So I was glad to see that was finally a thing that exists. If you haven't watched that yet, definitely check it out. Enjoy what you get. And that concludes this roundup. I hope it was entertaining enough. Again, first one, still finding the footing. If you have any recommendations or requests for things you want talked about or some thoughts on it, let me know. We'll get to it. Until then, have a nice day. Oh, and check out the Film Colossus website for our full writing, which is ending explanations, thematic explorations, filmographies, interviews with filmmakers on the tools that they use. Lots of good things there. That's www.filmcolossus.com. All right, cheers.